Welcome back to YPM, the Young Powerful Men podcast. I'm Cohen Terry, along with
Jaden Sumter.
And Landon Fudge. And in this episode 3, we're going to be wrapping up the Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. In the final section, it hits hard. And we're facing the truth about Turner, the weight of memory, and what it means to seek justice alongside the damages done.
I'm Jason Morgan. The final chapter has dropped a twist that changes everything we thought we knew. It turns out the narrator, this man living in New York, running his business, carrying himself with quiet pain, that's not Elwood. It's Turner. Turner survived Nickel Academy, but Elwood didn't. Turner took Elwood's name and built his life in the shadow of his friend's sacrifice. This is more than a plot twist. It's an identity shift that speaks volumes. Turner, the skeptical, street-smart kid who never believed in Elwood's idealism, ends preserving it by taking Elwood's name. Turner honors the boy who died believing in a better world. He's not just running from the past, he's carrying that part of it that had hope. That's powerful. But it's complicated. Because Turner isn't pretending to be Elwood to deceive, he's trying to live in a way that Elwood never got to. That's why it lands so emotionally. Turner could have buried Nickel deep inside of himself forever. But instead, he lets Elwood live on, not just in memory, but in action, in name, and in purpose. That's legacy.
That moment just broke me. I had to stop reading. The twist made me rethink the whole book. I didn't expect Turner to carry out Edward's name like that.
right, bro. It was wild how Turner, who never really brought into Elwood's hope and teachings, ends up being the one who keeps him alive.
And I think that's the point. Turner becomes the kind of man that Elwood believed he could be, even if he never meant to.
Yeah. Turner's silence across the years speaks louder than any confession. He lives for decades with the weight of trauma and truth that he can't share. That silence, that internal cage, it's just another kind of punishment. It reflects what so many survivors of institutional abuse face, the choice between forgetting in order to survive or remembering in order to heal. The emotional burden is real. Turner survived, but that didn't mean he escaped. He carried the trauma, the guilt, the loss of Elwood, and the loss of those he might have been if Nickel hadn't crushed them both. And when the state finally starts digging up graves and asking questions, Turner realizes he can't hide anymore, but the truth he shares comes too late for Elwood and all the others who never got out. Whitehead makes us confront that reality. Justice that comes years later, after the system has already done its damage. And it's not just fiction. The real Dozier School in Florida had a cemetery filled with unnamed graves. For years, people ignored survivors. Only when the graves were found did people start to believe in the horror stories. So Turner speaking up at the end, that's an act of courage, but it's also a tragedy because it shouldn't have taken this long. His voice, his memory, it's all that's left to set the record straight.
That part reminded me of those Indian boarding schools in Canada. We talked about this last time, how they found those graves and the people were so shocked, but it was the survivors have been saying it all along.
Yeah, it's like no one listens until there's physical proof. And by then, the people who lived through it had spent their lives in silence.
It makes you really wonder what kind of justice we believe in. Is saying sorry 50 years later supposed to fix anything?
What happened at Nickel isn't just a Southern horror story. It's a part of a global pattern, whether it's the Dozier School, Canadian residential schools, or the stolen generations in Australia. Institutions have used the same playbook. Isolate the vulnerable, abuse them, then bury the evidence, literally. So how do we break that cycle? One answer is restorative justice. Unlike traditional systems that punishes offenders and often ignores victims, restorative justice centers the healing process. It gives victims a voice. It holds offenders accountable in a way that asks, how do we repair the harm? And studies shows it works. It reduces recidivism and helps victims find closure. Now think about Turner. What if someone had come to him decades earlier, not to punish him, but to ask him what happened, to listen, to believe him? That's what restorative justice could have offered. Not just punishment for Nickel's staff, but real healing for its survivors. Turner's story shows how the justice delayed isn't justice denied, it's justice damaged. Restorative justice offers a path that doesn't erase trauma, but honors it.
And you can tell Turner never got that healing. He just carried the pain in silence. Imagine if someone asked him earlier, just listened.
Yeah, exactly. Restorative justice isn't a softer way to deal with crime. It's a deeper way. It's about connection and about giving back to the victims and giving them their voice.
And Turner gave Elwood his voice back by finally speaking, but he had to do it alone. That part isn't still the hardest.
So let's get personal. That twist, that Turner was Elwood all along, it changed the whole emotional weight of the story. I believed in Elwood. I needed him to survive. And when I realized it wasn't him, it felt like a gut punch. But then I looked again, and I realized maybe Elwood did survive. Not in body, but in soul, in Turner. That's what makes a story so morally complex. Turner didn't live the life Elwood wanted. He didn't go to college, didn't change the system, but he did survive. And maybe survival itself is a kind of resistance, a kind of justice, especially when you're living in a world built to erase you. What would I have done in Turner's shoes? I honestly don't know. Could I have lived under someone else's name for that long? Carry that kind of grief and guilt? Probably not. But that's what makes a story real. It forces us to ask hard questions about morality, identity, and truth. In the end, Turner facing Nickel, facing the past, in the most honest moment in the book, because healing doesn't start until you stop running, and speaking Elwood's name again, that was Turner finally standing still.
So, what do we take away? That survival isn't simple, the truth can come too late, and justice is real justice. Starts with listening.
The restorative justice is the future because punishment alone doesn't fix the past.
That sometimes memory isn't only justice the world is willing to give, and we got to protect that.
And that even in silence, hope survives. Because someone like Elwood lived, and someone like Turner finally spoke.
Thanks for listening to the Young Powerful Men podcast.
We've been your hosts, Jason, Cohen, Landon, and Jaden. Until next time, read deeply, question everything, and stay powerful.